Okay, so this is going to be a tutorial on asset preparation for part 1C of this project where we migrate everything over to FMOD. So at this point you should have a fully made mockup ready to go. I have mine right here, and we're going to go through this process together. Step one is going to be saving this as a new session. So we're going to save as session. I'll bring the prompt over here. And in the folder of 1B mockup, we're going to rename, we're going to save this as AAMP, AK project 1. Well, instead of AK, you'd put your own initials. Project 1, we're going to call this 1C, and then underscore asset prep. And then you're going to hit save. So this way, you've made your mockup, everything's done there. You can keep that, session as is, and then we can get destructive and edit in this one. So there's going to be a lot of stuff we're going to do to this. So now that we've built a new project, we're going to go through and turn off any plugins we have on the master that we don't need. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my Wix window. Keep that over here just so I can pull it back up later. I have just a compressor on my master. We're going to turn that off. And then we're also going to set all the faders to Unity. So go ahead and do that. After you finish putting all of the faders to Unity gain, you're also going to do the same with your pan. Right? You want to make sure that they're all dead flat in the middle, because we will do all of our panning inside of FMOD. The other thing you'll notice here is I have a couple tracks muted that I did not put to Unity. The reason why is because we're actually going to delete those. So if you have any unused sounds that you don't plan on putting into your FMOD project at this point, just go ahead and delete them. We can be as destructive as we want. It's going to be like, are you sure you want to delete this? It's got active stuff. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to delete that. The reason why we're doing that is because it's all in your mockup. If you need it again, just pull up that session. This is specifically going to be for creating the assets that we're going to need. First things first, I'm going to start with loops. So what we're going to do is take, if you've got multiple ambience loops, I recommend rendering them all out individually versus just making one ambience loop, because this way you can mix things separately inside of FMOD, which we'll talk about once I get to the FMOD portion of the tutorials. But so first thing you're going to do is grab one of your loops, right? What we want to do is preserve this edit and create a single audio file. So we're going to go up to the Edit tab, and we're going to hit Consolidate Clip. So what that does is basically just bakes our edit into the file, right? Awesome. Next thing we're going to do is what's called a track bounce. If you notice, I have some insert effects on these loops here. If you have insert effects on them, I just use a compressor and an EQ, right? If you have anything like that, you're going to have to do this next part. If you don't have anything on your insert effects, you can skip this. So you're going to want to select your clip, select the channel it's on, right? And then you're going to go up to the top to the track tab and go to track bounce. It's going to pull up a dialog box with a bunch of stuff, right? So it wants a name. So we're just going to do this with the naming convention. So AAMP, AK, ambient, loop 1, right? We're going to have broadcast wave. We want it to be interleaved stereo. We'll do a bit depth of 24-bit or whatever your session is set to is what you want that to be at. And then 44.1. And we're going to do import after bounce, and the file destination should be session folder bounced files. Okay. So, and we're going to do this as an offline bounce, so make sure you have that checked. And then we're going to hit bounce. Going to bounce it, and then we're going to hit this pop-up, which is audio import options. So we want the destination of this clip to be a new track. And it should give us a new track right underneath the original, right? And you can hit session start or select a spot or whatever, but we're just going to do session start. So hit OK. And then boom, there it is. There is our rendered clip, right? We're going to do something to this now that it's done, which is normalize. So instead of having a bunch of clips and a bunch of assets, right, all at random volume levels that don't make any sense, because they made sense, you know, in the session as you were working on them, what we're going to do is normalize these and then get them out of here. If you don't know what normalization basically says, okay, I want the loudest point in this entire waveform to be X dB, and then everything else needs to be moved up or down in accordance with that, right? So it basically just turns your clip volume up and down, but you give it the loudest point you ever want to be, and then it adjusts it by whatever the correct amount is, right? So, and while doing this, it preserves all your dynamic range and everything else. So how do you do that, right? In order to do that, we're going to select our clip, which is going to be this track we just bounced out, so it has all the effects. We're going to go to the Audio Suite tab, go to Other, and go to Normalize. And it'll bring up this dialog box. So in this box, what we're going to do is we're going to set what we want the highest peak volume to ever be, right? And you want to make sure this little peak one is clipped. You don't want RMS, you want peak. We're going to say we want the loudest one to be -1. And whatever you pick, which I would suggest -1, is what you're going to normalize everything in the project to, right? So I'm going to hit render, and boom, look, there's our ambient loop 1, right? It is loud, it is ready to go. Okay, now that I've explained each part, I'm just going to quickly go through the different paths individually. We'll go through this one again really quickly. We're going to edit, consolidate clip, and because this one also does not have any insert effects on it, yeah, so we can normalize. And because this one has effects on it, we're going to go through the whole track bounce section really quick. So we're just going to select, I'm going to go to edit, consolidate clip, that preserves our edit. Then we're going to, let's see, does this one have reverb? No, it does not. Okay, so we're just going to select the track, select the clip, go to track, up at the top, bounce. We're going to call this, the name of this one's called Ghost Wind, right? So we're going to call it Ambient Loop 4, because that's my fourth one, I guess. So we'll call that Ambient Loop 4, 24-bit, 44.1, because that's what our session is in, interleaved, because we want a stereo file. We're going to import after bounce, session folder, bounce files should be the destination, and we'll do offline. Hit bounce. We'll get hit with the audio import options. We're going to do new track, session start, hit OK. And then we'll go ahead and mute the original, and boom, this is our new clip with the effects rendered on it. And then what we're going to do to that is select the clip, go to Audio Suite, Other, Normalize, set it to -1 dB, and render, and then boom. So just like that, we can delete the ones that, you know, pre-normalized that we didn't wind up using. Delete that track. And okay, now that we have all these files bounced and normalized, what we're going to do is rename them really quick. So I'm going to go ahead and rename. It'll bring up this dialog box after you right click on the clip. I'm going to call this ambient loop 1, and this is waves, right? So ambient loop 1, ocean waves. It tells us what kind of file it is and what the sound is. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and do that for all of them. So I'm going to rename this one. I believe, what is this one? This one sounds like wind. Oh, this is like ocean background. Okay. So we're going to go ahead, rename. We're going to call this ambient loop 2 ocean background. Hit OK. Number 3, we're going to rename to be, this one I believe is like desert wind. So we're going to call it ambient loop 3. I'm going to call it sandy wind. And we'll rename this last one. This is like ghost wind or whatever, I guess. We're going to rename this one to be ambient loop 4 ghost wind. Does it matter? It's just funny that it's named that. Okay, so now we've got our renamed files here. So what we're going to do is we're going to select all of them since they're all renamed and all rendered. And we're going to export these files. So when you do a file export versus a file bounce, when you bounce, it's just going to bounce everything out, right? Like a normal bounce would. When you're exporting, you're going to export specifically this wave file clip alone, right? So whatever the volume level is, it's going to be a separate thing. So if you select all 4 of them, oh, and it's also going to spit it out with whatever the renamed thing is. So you definitely have to rename your files. So if you select all 4 of them, we're going to use the export functions. You're going to use the shortcut Shift Command K or Shift Apple K, and that's going to bring up this dialog box. It's going to be export selected. We're going to do wave. We're going to do interleaved stereo files. We're going to do 16-bit, 44.1. And then we're going to, for the destination directory of where it's going to place these files, we're going to choose, right? So while we want everything here to be in this overarching, 1B folder, we're going to create a new subfolder to put all of these things. So we're going to create a new folder, and we're just going to call it assets, right? Great. So open. So now it's going to dump everything into that file. So if I hit export, it looks like nothing changed, but if we go ahead and pull up that window right here, right? Woo. You're going to see there's a new folder called assets, and it's going to have everything. All of these will be the normalized, fully committed files that we just built over there, right? Awesome. The reason you're going to want to do these as multiple clips is because in the real world, all of these ambient loops are not going to be playing all the time. They're going to be tied to specific things. So like, for example, if you did the Genshin Impact image, there's like a waterfall way in the back. The ambient loop for that waterfall is going to be tied to that area so that way when the player gets closer to it, it's going to, in FMOD, get louder, right? Kind of almost like a proximity, but kind of not. So just, you want to have that freedom. It also gives us the ability to mix the ambiences to the image inside of FMOD, right? So there we go. That's how you're going to do that.